With more than 100 years of experience, Mitas is one of Europe's leading motorcycle tyre brands. Whether you ride on the trails, enduro, on the road or on adventures, Mitas have the tyres for you. If they're good enough for the likes of Chris Birch and Paul Tarris, they're good enough for me and our Noel. For more information, go to mitas-moto.com. Go the distance with Mitas tyres. Hello and welcome to the Trail and Adventure Motorbike Podcast with me, Clive Barber. For the days when you can't ride your bike, there's always the Trail and Adventure Motorbike Podcast. Hello chaps, welcome back to the podcast. I'm honestly not sure what we're calling this podcast this week because it's something a little bit different. We've started to talk to some of the filmmakers that appeared at the Adventure Motorcycle Film Festival back in February this year. We've got three of the guys here, Danny Lilwall, Nick Jacobs and Thomas Dance. So we're going to be talking a little bit in general about how the film festival went, what the guys thought of it, and then talk about the new and improved Adventure Motorcycle Film Festival 2027. We've got lots of ideas for that. We'll explain some of them here. We're still working on some other ideas to make it an even better experience than it was this year. So stick around, have a listen to the guys. Tickets will be available soon, but you can, if you've made a film in the last 2 years, you can submit your film now. Just before we get into the podcast, wanted to say a quick thank you to next year's film festival sponsors, Adventure Spec, Mitas Tyres and Ethos Supply. And a new exciting app which is going to be launched very soon called Just Ride. Watch this space and we'll give you more information when it's launched. Right, let's go on with it. Sorry, there is one more thing. This podcast is also being released on Simon's Real Rider podcast. I know none of you listen to that, nobody does really, but there's no point in listening to them both. Once you've listened to this, I'm joking. Simon's podcast is utterly brilliant in many ways, better than this one, but pointless listening to this episode again. But he's got lots of other great ones. Right, now we're going to get on with it. Welcome to, what are we going to call this podcast, Simon? Is it going to be the Trail and Adventure Motorbike Podcast, the Real Riders Podcast, or the Adventure Motorcycle Film Festival Podcast, or all three?
I'd need to prepare for that kind of question, sorry. Maybe we call it the Trail and Real Rider Adventure Motorbike Film Festival Podcast. I don't know.
There we go.
We'll fix it in post anyway.
We've got three directors that were actually at the film festival with us. We've got Thomas Dance, we've got Danny Lilwall, and we've got Nick Jacobs. We're going to talk to them all about their films as well and what they thought of the festival. But we thought it'd be a really good chance to catch up with everybody, get a little bit more feedback, and it will also give us the chance to share with you our plans for next year's film festival. We've got dates in the diary for the 26th, that's a Friday evening, and the 27th of February in 2027. There is a little bit of contention about whose idea it was for the festival. I think it was mine. But, Nick, you have other ideas?
I actually have email evidence that it was my idea. So I would happily get that out and prove it and claim all rights if you're happy with that.
Yeah, I'd like to see that email. But Noel also said it was his idea as well.
Yeah, I mean, the problem with Noel and his idea was he just wanted to have a marquee and some handmade sandwiches to feed the audience of 20 people that he expected. So I don't know if his concept really counts in this matter.
I think you're right. My thinking behind it was I've been doing Lel Pavy's Dakar evening, which is between Christmas and New Year, and I'm trying to get two other people to do an event during the winter months. So we have the Dakar event in December, we have the film festival in February, and then we have two other things in January and March that kind of fill the otherwise shit winter months when you can't actually ride so much. So it's just a case of having something to look forward to over the winter. So that was really one of my main drivers about putting the film festival on. And I had kind of no idea what it was really. I think that the other interesting thing is Simon, the way you and I have worked together, because I'll just go, yeah, let's do a film festival and then book a theatre. We'll worry about the details later. But thankfully, you're really good at details, aren't you?
Yeah, I was thinking about this today because I thought you might ask me, because I remember on the night of this year's festival or shortly afterwards, someone asked me, or I think several people asked me, "Oh, so what did you think, Simon? Did it go all right? Are you excited about how it went?" And, I wasn't that excited, and it's not because I was any way disappointed. I think, I live in Germany. I think the Germanness, well, I'm not German, but I think some Germanness has sort of crept in because it was sort of really well planned and it just went to plan, which I think is the most German thing in the world. So that's why I wasn't super excited afterwards, because it was sort of like, well, yeah, that's what we planned and that's what happened. But does that sound terrible?
No, that sounds good. It felt great on the day. I was really nervous before we started, but once we got into it, I kind of relaxed into it. And in fact, I really enjoyed it as well. We obviously knew a lot of people there, which was great, but met a lot of new people as well. But the feedback since the festival has just been fantastic. I've been pretty much bowled over by most of the feedback we have got, and people seem very excited about us doing it again. So I don't think we have much choice, really. We're going to have to do it again.
Yeah, well, we're in it for the long haul. I don't think there was any doubt that we would do it again next year and the year after and the year after and try and make it a permanent thing on the motorcycle scene.
I didn't really realise how difficult it would be. It's like, just put some films on in a cinema. People will come, Ray. And they did. So it was all right. So, guys, what did you think of the festival? It's a slightly different experience for you three, I guess, because you were there to enjoy the festival, but also you had your films on. Danny, you've already been to another one, haven't you, where your film was featured?
I didn't go to it because it was in Canada, but I have been to Austin Vince's Film Festival, which is obviously a completely different setup to yours. His is more like a kind of, I suppose, like a music festival where you've got different tents and rooms and buildings around it was on like this old school thing. So they've got like multiple films showing at once and you camp all weekend. It's more like a 3-day thing rather than just the 1 day. It was obviously a great event. It was brilliant to see everyone as well that we've met through the scene and that.
And what did you think of all the films? Did you enjoy most of the films that were there?
Oh, yeah, I loved them, yeah. I even dragged my missus along and she loved them. So,
how was your experience, Nick?
I absolutely loved it. I was quite excited to have been chosen, and the thought of my film being on the big screen, yeah, I was just thinking about that a lot. And I wondered how I would feel to sort of sit there and, when it starts to roll, the titles roll, and it's like, it's that film that originally I made at home in my bedroom, and suddenly it's being played to an audience of 200 people. And I didn't really plan for it to be shown in that way. I just thought, because it's quite a personal film, so I thought I'd put it out on YouTube and I'll never have to sort of sit alongside anyone and watch it live, And then suddenly I'm there with 200 people.
260, get it right.
260 people. Yeah, I found it really surreal and I loved it. I was buzzing afterwards. It was really cool as well because, just to be shown alongside films like, films from the Fort 9, films from Revzilla, to have their film shown and then the next film is my film, it's like, that's pretty prestigious company to be in. And it's funny actually, because I was sat quite near to Danny when your film was on, Danny. So I was watching you when your film was being shown. It's almost cringy. It's like a bit cringy to watch it, but then it starts to roll and like the audience laughs, or I was sort of listening as well for when the audience was really quiet. And I think in my film, it started off quite jokey, then it got quite serious. And by about halfway through, everyone was just silent. And I was like, oh, this is good. Like, I've got them now, So yeah, I enjoyed it a lot, for sure.
We'll be back after a quick break.
Today's exciting episode is brought to you by Adventure Specs Super Shirt 2.0.
2.0?
Yep, it's a new version. It's got the flow armour, which is a lot more breathable, and yet it's still CE AA rated. So it gives you both impact protection and abrasion resistance.
It's an absolute game changer.
It is actually, because you completely forget you've got it on. The armour's really soft. I even find myself checking to see if I've actually remembered to put it on sometimes.
It still feels wrong, doesn't it?
Yeah, it does. But it's the first thing I put on for all motorcycling activities, basically. I even wore it and you mocked me when we were doing some trials practice.
Thank God you were wearing it that day, because I don't think you'd be with us today if you hadn't been wearing it when you got on the trials bike.
It wasn't that bad. It's even been crash tested on an actual human, which I don't think any other garment has ever been tested that way.
They threw a man down a runway wearing one, didn't they?
It's actually quite scary to watch, but he came away unscathed, which is pretty good news.
What do you wear over the top of yours?
Well, you know I'm a bit of a hipster, so it's usually a check shirt and a very long beard.
Just something to hide the coffee stains.
Yes, the very rare blend espressos that I normally drink.
Nice.
So there are sizes for all from small to, I think, triple XL. It's quite stretchy as well, so it'll fit women and it fits fatties like me too. To get your super shirt, head to adventurespec.com.
I'm Austin Vince, and in 1995, me and some buddies set out to motorcycle around the world on a trip we called Mondo Enduro. We thought it would be terribly difficult, but it turned out it wasn't. Ultimately, we were the first group to trail ride across Siberia's Zilov Gap, and then also the first crew to ride the Road of Bones to Magadan. And we did it on second-hand 350cc trail bikes without the internet, mobile phones, or GPS. Motorcycling around the world was the defining experience of my life, and I knew I wanted to share that fun. So now I teach the DIY lo-fi Mondo ethos by taking people on miniature expeditions in the Spanish Pyrenees. If you think that sounds like fun, you'd be right. So come on.
You can find lots more information at austinvince.com.
Same here. It was just brilliant. It's pretty nerve-wracking, I'd say, to see your film on a screen like that. There's nowhere to hide, so to speak. You know, in a room full of people on a giant screen, I was quite nervous. I had actually been to Toronto, to the Toronto Motocycle Film Festival last year, and seen it there, so I kind of knew what to expect slightly, but yeah, it was feelings were the same. Still nervous, still anxious, but once it shows, it's really great to see a film up on a big screen and to share it with a room full of people, because you get that direct feedback. You know, you can read the room, you can feel how someone, you know, how people feel about it. To get real life comments from people that have watched it and come up to you and say that they enjoyed it, it's really nice. Yeah, really, really great experience.
Did you get a lot of people during the breaks and afterwards coming up and chatting to you about your film?
I think mine showed after the last break, and then we kind of went into the end, but even from like just at the end, as people were leaving, you know, I had that small little window of people kind of came up. You get really sincere feedback, people that come up to you and talk to you. It really feels like genuine interaction that isn't replicated the same when you sort of receive a comment on YouTube or something like that. So yeah, really nice.
Nick, you've used the words very personal, and it was. You kind of went very deep into yourself and your emotions. I didn't know men could have emotions, so that was amazing for me to learn about that. What kind of crowd reaction did you get after your film was shown?
Yeah, I was nervous about that. Not because I was shy to have made the film or show it. I think I almost felt quite apologetic, because afterwards my film was shown last of the segment, so straight away I was called up to the stage. And I think, yeah, I just felt like, sorry everyone for like going so harsh, and not harsh, but going so deep. And what was interesting was when I finished that Q&A segment, there was a guy, I forget his name, I think it might be David, came up to me and was really sincere and said, look, don't say sorry for it. That was a brilliant film. And I was like, yeah, thank you. And he was like, no, seriously, you don't need to apologize for anything. You've done it right. And that is really important that people are doing that. And I had a few comments like that where they were almost reassuring me that I had done the right thing in making it and showing it. But yeah, I think I said on stage, when I filmed those talk to cams, it's just me and a camera on some hillside in Spain. For a minute, think that what you're saying in that sort of intimate, personal moment will be shown to 260 people. live in an audience. So yeah, I didn't plan for it, but I'm glad I did it.
Danny, were you sober at any point? Could you actually remember what anybody said about your film?
I remember the first film. I got quite a lot of good comments. I think a lot of people who I know had already seen it because I'd shared it beforehand, but then I got so many people afterwards, even people that were staying in our hotel afterwards, saying they watched it when they got back to the room and stuff like that. And ever since, I've been having loads of messages and stuff saying that they really enjoyed it. So
it was such a different experience for me watching the films on the big screen. And I don't think I've ever really understood how much better it is seeing films on the big screen. Your film was getting loads of laughs. And I remember chuckling quietly to myself when I watched it on my phone. But having it on the big screen, it really brings things home. It really does make a big difference.
Yeah, I guess it's when everyone's there together, and especially when you've had a few drinks or whatever, and everyone's just enjoying the moment. Everyone just laughs together, and once a few people start, everyone just joins in, I suppose, don't they?
A slight aside, I was chatting to my wife yesterday about coming up with some questions for tonight. And I said, well, one of the things we need to talk about is what we're going to do differently. She immediately came out with, well, can you keep Danny away from the bar? Your film actually won the People's Choice Award, which for me was probably one of the main awards, really. And your acceptance speech was rubbish.
Yeah, but I better apologise for that now. I think I was just in so much shock, and I've pretty tanked up by then as well, that I didn't really want to make a dick of myself on stage, so I just...
In shock? Is that one of those new flavoured vodkas? In shock.
I should have said thank you to everyone who voted, really, but I was, like I said, I was literally just gobsmacked. Couldn't believe it, to be honest.
Danny, I think your film got more laughs than any other film. Were any of those laughs a surprise for you, like when people laughed?
Some of them. Don't ask me to recount them, I can't remember, but I remember thinking on the night that there were some bits that people were laughing at that I don't even remember laughing at when I watched it, so I need to put it out there. It wasn't meant to be a comedy, though. That's a serious travel documentary with loads of fuck-ups on the way.
If that was your intention, you failed miserably then, I'm sorry to say.
Getting back to the people's vote, Nick and Danny, both of your films, Uganda by Motocycle was Danny's film, and Nick's film was West of Santander. You were like first and second in the People's Choice. For the whole event, we had a team of 10 judges, and we basically scored each film. We had 52 films submitted, and obviously the top 12 films got through to the event itself. And obviously then 3 films actually won an award as Best Feature, Best Short, and Best Film. And then we had a People's Choice. So everybody got a counter, which they could then put into a yogurt pot to vote for their favourite film. And Nick and Danny, your films were first and second, beating not only Thomas, but also the likes of Revzilla and Fort 9. Has that kind of sunk in yet?
Do you know what? I haven't even thought about it, to be honest.
I have a lot. I love it. It's great. I think people there, like you could argue that Revzilla's films, Fortnite's films were better films. Like they were so well done. But I think people there recognise that all 3 of us here on this call are amateurs and we're just having a go. I mean, what I find incredible is that was Danny's first ever film. Like Simon said, it got so many laughs. It got definitely the most laughs of any film that night. So I think people recognise that. For them, I think resonates more than watching a big production film, watching someone that they could relate to. So that's what probably helped to sort of steer the votes that way. Although I did wonder, because you guys weighed the pots, didn't you, to like find out who won. I did wonder why Danny was putting pound coins into his ones, but now I understand.
So, Nick, I know that West of Santander went through a number of iterations before the sort of the film that we finally got to see. And you actually had released an earlier version to your Patreon community. Can you sort of describe the iterative process for West of Santander, and is that the way you normally work?
West of Santander was absolutely horrible to make. That was my 4th film. The first 3 had quite a clear sort of remit. Like the first one was about kind of novice survivor off-road trip, right? Complete novice. Second film was kind of, can I go and do a trip in winter, Third film was, can I sort of go further than I've ever been before and use a new camera for my dad and so on. This film didn't really have much of a purpose aside from, should I still be doing this? And when I came back, I was really unclear how to make it. I didn't think I could make it completely in sequence like I'd make the other films. And I knew it was personal, and I knew there were quite a lot of talk to cams that I had to work through and cut out some stuff. The more I began to make it and spend time in it, the worse it got. I sort of overthunk, is that a word? Overthought it.
You're the teacher, buddy.
Yeah. And I just overanalyzed it, as I can tend to do sometimes. And that definitely affected it. But also, my computer kept crashing. I don't know what was going on, but I kept having problems with the whole PC just turning off and all sorts of nonsense. And that really stifled the process. As I got near the end, I just wanted it done and over with. So I released it onto the Patreon, kind of knowing it wasn't quite right, but wanting it to be finished with. And then as soon as I started to watch it back, I thought, this isn't what I set out to do. This isn't right. So I thought, screw it. I'm going to find a way to stop the crashes and get this film to be closer to the original vision and a bit tighter. And actually, I cut down by about 7 minutes as well, which I think made the film a bit stronger.
Do you pay much attention to the audience feedback that you get, like from YouTube or people you've talked to, when you're thinking, oh, okay, for the next film, I'm going to maybe change something?
It's definitely helped me to think about what my unique selling point might be. And when I've started to think, maybe I'll try and make this kind of film, I've read the comments, I've got feedback, and people often say things like my voiceovers are well written, or the music choices are good. I did consider perhaps having less voiceover in future films, but then I read comments saying, no, like that's their favorite part. It doesn't really affect what I choose to do in terms of a new project. I'll always just follow what interests me, but it definitely has an impact in terms of when I come to edit, what choices I make there. Not in terms of like getting the most views on YouTube, but more just what lands with people, what resonates. And it's funny, actually, West of Santander obviously was quite a personal film. And the comments on YouTube, this has been the film that has given me the longest comments ever. People have been writing passages of text because to them, when they watch it, they think it's kind of happening right now. But actually, it was filmed a year ago. And people really want to just help and give me advice and say, hey, it's okay. And I'm like, no, it's like, this happened a year ago. I'm okay now. But still, it's been quite nice to sort of see how much people have been, it struck a chord and people have then wanted to sort of reach out and say something to help.
It's arguably your most raw and personal film, the most vulnerable we've seen you on film. And I was wondering, motorcycling is often referred to as two-wheeled therapy, but what role does filmmaking play for you in terms of processing and ordering your own thoughts in the way that maybe people do when they ride a motorcycle?
What I like about making these films is you experience the trip 3 times. You have the trip, you come back and you make the film, and then you watch the film back, and you definitely learn a lot about yourself in doing that.
Thomas, somebody said that we don't have professional filmmakers, but you have taken on something of a paid filmmaking role, I believe.
Yeah, that's right. I've been working with Adventure Spec now. The first project I worked on with Adventure Spec was the film in Morocco on the Trans-Morocco Trail. Greg got me in for filming and the editing process of that. Since then, it's kind of rolled into a bit more of a part-time role. The media side of things with Adventure Spec are starting to develop, and I think wanting to put more energy into the YouTube channel, and that's kind of where I've come in. So I've been working with Greg, and we've been filming a few projects together. I've been mostly editing up till now. So like if they've been doing any mini adventures and things, the footage ends up on my desk. I have to make head or tail of it and put it together in some form of a film. It's been an amazing experience working with Greg and Adventure Spec doing that. It's just such a new way of working for me. With that sort of client relationship, it forces you to be as efficient as possible and sort of pragmatic as possible. And right, how can we do this? And it's fed into my own filmmaking as well. And it's helping to make what I'm doing more efficient, and really great working with them. And it just makes me excited to be doing my own stuff and future projects with them.
Coming back to your film and the other guys' films as well, I think something that really did resonate with the audience was the fact that you all made trips. Nick, you were on your own, and Danny, you were with Pete. But Thomas, you were with a bunch of mates, really. pretty much all of your trips, not contrived, you didn't have to think of something to do. You just went away on your travels and made a film, right?
The first film I'd made was with that group of guys the year before, and we had ridden across the Pyrenees, and this was a continuation of that, about the same time of year. It was a holiday, really, you know, trail riding holiday with your mates. I knew I wanted to get some footage, but it's trying to navigate how much friction you want to introduce into a trip when essentially it is your holiday and you want to be out riding, you want to have fun, and filming can be quite challenging at times or time consuming. There's a certain amount of patience that you can expect from your friends when you're doing this kind of thing. So for me, it was just get some shots, make it look nice, and then figure it out in the end. So the footage I had taken for this film had just been sat in a folder for a long time. I had no idea what to do with it. And I knew the deadline for the film festival submission was coming up. And I was just scratching my head for a good month before I even attempted it. And then it came together really quickly. I've been working again with Adventure Spec, so I kind of knew that once I had the idea in my mind that I could probably execute it quite quickly. So I just put as much time as I could into thinking about it, sitting on it, meditating on it. And then when it came to putting it together, it was like, right, I'll give myself 4 days, just do something. So the footage itself wasn't captured with anything specific in mind. It's more, I like to do those with friends as more of a memory for ourselves to look back on and enjoy the trip again. So that was what it had to be first, was something that my friends could watch. It was good memories for them and myself. When it comes to actually putting the film together, you then have to start making decisions about, well, what actually happened. And in order to make something consumable for the audience, you have to manipulate it a little bit. So I was trying to be honest about exactly what happened, but trying to make some sort of narrative out of it. It was hobbled together a bit, and I'm happy with how it came out. But first and foremost, it was just a holiday with friends, and the footage that was taken, I just captured with that in mind.
One thing I've noticed with the films that you've been putting out over the last year, especially compared to that first, or the film of you guys riding across the Pyrenees, is we're hearing a lot more of your voice on your films, which is a big change. So what prompted that?
I don't actually know how it came about. I knew I needed some, or at least I wanted some sort of voice, even if it wasn't for use in the film. It was going to be beneficial to myself to have that in addition to a written journal. I could look back at those and have almost like voice memos, but I was like, well, I may as well set a camera up at the same time. So they were captured in that way. My initial intention of what I was going to India to film kind of didn't really happen. I was left with a lot of just me talking to camera. So I knew that had to be the bulk of what I was going to edit. Naturally, it then had my voice in. So I have been introducing my voice like anyone. I don't think anybody really likes listening to themselves played back. I think once you get over that, that's the hurdle you need to get over. And then once you're over that, it's like, well, it just makes sense to start using your own voice more. However, I do want to revisit doing some more captions sort of pieces. I think there's a sort of quirkiness there that has a little bit of charm. So like I'm going to revisit those earlier attempts and see if I can make some blended form of film which brings in everything that I've been doing up until now.
Of course, Thomas, actually you had a credit in another film that was shown at the festival. Perhaps tell us about that and your role in making that film.
So that was the Adventure Spec film, the one where the camera got lost. When I got the footage from Greg for that, he had told me what happened and had indicated a sort of, it would be really nice to use that kind of the camera falling in the river, and he had sort of suggested a route that he'd like to take the film, and then handed the footage over to me, let me have a go at seeing what I made of it. So I review the footage, and then the working method that we have at the moment is like sometimes I'll write a loose structure of a voiceover or a script that gives me something to edit to, and then I'll pass that to Greg, and then he can add his bit or correct. Because I'm making up a lot of stuff. I'm seeing footage and making up what I think's happening, and then I'll send it to him. He'll then tweak it and he'll do his bit, and we kind of have a bit of a back and forth that way. So with that film, I was editing, and I guess to an extent writing some of that as well. That was a really nice one to do, and it's really interesting to just have a bunch of footage land in your inbox and have to make head or tail of it.
So, Danny, at what point during the shooting of your film, Uganda by Motocycle, did you realise that the initial dramas with the bikes that you'd hired, those dramas weren't going to actually derail the film that you wanted to make?
To be honest, I didn't really think of that, because in my head, the film was more about the wildlife and all the animals that we're going to see. With all the shit we had with the bikes, kind of added the adventure motorcycling element to it, which made it a much better film, really. If it was just me pottering around to see lions and shit, I don't think it would have been a very good film for the audience. It would have been good for me to watch back, which is why I wanted to make it in the first place. But yeah, all the drama that added to it, it really made the trip what it was, really.
It certainly gave a thematic backbone to the film, you know. I mean, how many times were you broken down on the side of the road? It was quite funny, and explaining to the locals what was going on, and yeah.
I think it would have been a fairly shit film without all that going on, to be honest.
Yeah, definitely, yeah. And a pretty boring trip as well.
I've been seeing clips of your next trip online, and you've had a fair few moments on that one as well that should make a funny, interesting film.
It's definitely going to be interesting. I'm not sure if it's going to be as funny as the last one. Like I said, the last one never meant to be a comedy. It just turned out that way. Quite an endearing trip that we've just been on, and hopefully the footage will do it justice.
When you were editing the film together, at what point did you realise, oh, I got a bit of magic here? Or did that never occur to you?
Do you know what? It took me 3 months on and off to put that film together, with like obviously work and family and just being arsed when you get home and you're tired. I remember when I kind of clicked publish on YouTube, finally it was done. It was online. It was over. I remember thinking, fucking hell, what a waste of time. No one's going to be interested in this. And I was feeling a bit kind of like down about it, until I started getting a few comments and stuff. And that's when I thought it might be worth entering into the film festival.
Well, 2 film festivals, as it turned out.
Yeah.
Not bad.
No, not bad at all.
Did you guys enter your film in any other festivals, Nick and Thomas?
I forgot. Simon's mentioned that I should enter my previous film, What Lies Beyond. And I thought, yeah, I probably should do that. And then I just forgot when the deadline was. And then Danny stole my place.
The only reason I entered it into the Toronto Motorcycle Film Festivals was after speaking to Simon. I hadn't even considered that at all. And he even says you probably won't get selected, but it'll be good to get your name out there, which is the only reason I did it, really. So I was really shocked when I got the email through saying it had been selected. I was like absolutely gobsmacked, to be fair.
All of your films are just great stories, and very, very real.
Yeah, for me, I never set out to make these films to eventually enter into film festivals. It was always the idea of putting things out on YouTube, seeing what happens, from there. So the idea of actually entering it, I always thought you only entered films into film festivals that were proper films made by a team, made by someone who's in the industry.
Yeah, like cinematic and stuff.
Yeah. I think it's pretty cool what you guys have done in terms of putting this thing together. I actually entered into a different one before. Now that I think about it, I entered the London one. I think it's just called the London Motorcycle Film Festival, maybe. And I entered that. I put together a short film for that, and it wasn't chosen. But when I went to watch it, I realized why. Because every film shown there was a real production team or someone established, someone who really knew what they were doing. So it's pretty cool that, this festival happened in the way that it did, because it was a blend of both, wasn't it? If I just think top of my head, I would say it was like half sort of established filmmakers and half amateurs like us. So,
and that's one of the really important changes we're making for next year, because we kind of talked about it a couple of months before the festival, saying we should actually have some kind of independent filmmakers award. And then we spent about 6 weeks trying to work out what an independent filmmaker would be and just fucking gave up. Because you could argue that Revzilla's an independent filmmaker. They're not a production studio. So we brought in a new award, which the judges are going to decide. And it's going to be called the Spirit of Independent Filmmaking Award. But yeah, the idea is it's you or you and a bunch of mates with your phones, with a drone and, with your cameras making something on the fly kind of thing. So there will be an award for exactly the sort of thing that all three of you have done. So hopefully that will encourage more people to go out and make films as well.
It's just great to be in a cinema and seeing that spectrum of film, everything from amateur productions all the way up to big budget productions, all side by side. And so really nice.
Interestingly, that wasn't like a deliberate thing we did. We didn't choose film. That was just basically the 10 judges scoring the films out of 10. And that's just the films we ended up with, which was great because it was a really nice mix of different kinds of things.
Yeah, I mean, there were a lot of films that were very slickly produced, but that didn't have the same story elements or heart, didn't really connect with an audience, or didn't connect, obviously, with the judges in the way that your films did, even if the production value was maybe not there in some of your films some of the time. Don't want to go into details. But then what we, I think, felt very smug about was the fact that at the end of that night, the two films that came first and second in terms of the People's Choice Award was your film, Danny, and your film, Nick, and left these other big productions in the dust. And we thought, we don't really need to make a special category for amateur filmmakers because you guys have competed with these big names. But we still wanted to go that extra mile for 2027 and make it very clear to people who maybe didn't attend the festival and seen the results and seen that, how am I ever going to compete against F9 or Revzilla? So we still feel that we want to be very encouraging of people who are making a film for the first time or doing it by themselves or doing it, purely amateurly in terms of no financing, etc., all those kind of things that normally when people talk about films, they think of big budgets and big teams and stuff like that. But we want to emphasize that that's not necessary.
Yeah, I would definitely say to anyone who's thinking about it, they've got some trips coming up. Like I remember when I entered my film and it was like one of the things you had to tick was the film budget. And I was like, film budget? I was like, this is zero, nothing. Me and my little shitty camera, If you're thinking about doing something and you've got an itching to put something together, just go for it and who knows.
Did you actually notice more people watching your film on the YouTubes after the festival?
Definitely not for me.
Me neither.
Go on, Nick. Tell us how many people have watched your film. Come on, I know you're dying to.
I'm closing in on quite a big milestone, which is pretty cool. It's very close to 100K.
No way. Misery sells.
Yeah, it's bonkers to think about. So in the film, my friend Drew was at the beginning and at the end of it. And when it first was released, I kept on messaging him saying, how do you feel about 10,000 people seeing your face? And the next day it was, how do you feel about 20,000 people seeing your face? It's done well on YouTube. Also, I already had an established audience there. So that was the difference. Actually, to be honest, because I hadn't put out a film for a year almost, because I just didn't want to put out films regularly just for the sake of it. Not saying there's anything wrong with that or that people are doing that, but for me, the film's ready, I'll put it out. If it's not ready, I won't. I was worried that after a year, it just wouldn't get picked up by YouTube. So I was very pleased to see that it was. And people like me who aren't prolific in making films, but will get there eventually, there's still a place for us on YouTube.
And Nick, with your film, you actually held off releasing it on YouTube until the day after the festival, didn't you?
I did, yeah. That was your idea, Simon, actually. I need to give you credit for that one. It was a good idea. When I found out that I was going to be in the festival, I hadn't yet released, but I was about to. And I thought, well, you know what? I've waited this long. I can wait 2 more months. Because how cool would it be to say that it's the sort of world premiere? But that actually gave me a lot of anxiety because it meant on the day, already I was nervous about this sort of deeply personal film being shown. And then I realized not many people had seen it. But I sort of tried to reassure myself to say the judges have chosen it, so it must be okay. And the next day I tried something new in that I did a YouTube live premiere where you set a time and then you're there watching it with people and you have a live chat. And I think about, I don't know, 50 people came to that, and that was quite fun. So I had 2 premieres. That was good.
Something for you next time, Danny, Thomas, maybe.
I find it mad that I think I've told you, Thomas. Thomas is my favourite filmmaker that I know of right now. I think his stuff's fucking brilliant. But you look at his YouTube and he's got like 20 views or something like that. The world's not fair, man.
While we're throwing love towards Thomas, can I say he's also my favourite filmmaker? Thomas, you put out these films of your trip in India, and I just was waiting for every single one. And actually, me and Simon were a bit sort of fanboys with it, and it would be like, oh, there's a new Thomas Dance film out. Quick, go and watch it, because they're just so unique. And you edit and cut your film like you're holding a samurai sword, just like these sudden cuts, and you're like, what is going on? And it's so different. So actually, I was quite excited just to meet you at the festival as well, and just to talk to you, because what you're doing, I think, is quite different.
That's one of the good things as well, that since we've all been on Simon's podcast, is that us three have become mates afterwards. So it's pretty cool that you've set up this little kind of community, which is awesome, I think.
Yeah, so nice. And that's what was, really great about the film festival, was meeting face to face with people and being able to chat. And it's so cool. Like, I started doing these films to have something to share with my friends, and I had no idea that it would then lead to having so many more friends through doing it. So it's been really great.
Which film did you all vote for your People's Choice token? Nick, I know you probably voted for your own. If you didn't vote for your own, which was your favourite film? Shall I tell you mine? I liked the Revzilla film.
The Drixton. That was my favourite, and that was my wife's favourite as well. We were saying, actually, you could watch that on Netflix and you wouldn't know any different. It was such a good film. What was your favourite, Thomas?
I voted for Edward's film. I knew Edward before the film festival through racing. So it was I had said to him to submit to the festival. And when I knew it was coming up, I said, "Oh, Ed, you should submit your films." So when I heard that he had gotten selected, I was so chuffed.
I mean, that was the big deal, I suppose. Just getting selected is winning, isn't it, really? Out of 52 films, the quality of films we got through, being in the last 12 was remarkable.
I agree about the Revzilla film. I also think the Fortnite film had the best action sequences, the way that they cut and edited those sequences, especially in India. I think they did some clever tricks. I think they sped up some of those scenes on purpose. Like when they're about to hit someone, I think they did a few tricks because you really felt it, and they cut it so quick. The film as a whole, I thought perhaps was a bit long, but I think it was still a really, really good film. But those action sequences, particular, were the best I've seen.
Simon, which was your favourite?
I would say, in all seriousness, there were parts of all the films that I liked. I really liked the beginning of the Drixton, but for me, the emotional energy evaporated when the racing started. The racing didn't really do it for me, but the whole trip, building it, doing the conversion or putting it all back together in the back of the school bus was a cool idea, and I really liked the way that was shot and that was told. So sort of the first 3/4 of that film I really liked, but then after, for me, it actually dropped off. What I liked about the Fortnite film is they clearly set out to make an entertaining film, and I kind of respect that. It was clearly an entertaining film. I also felt the very last sort of sequences lacked a little bit of emotional weight. But yeah, the shots through India and maybe the shots through some of the outback of Australia were really impressive. So there are bits of that. But I didn't vote for either of those films. I mean, I love Danny's film, shot at times on an iPhone, but just the quality of Danny's editing and his ability to tell a story, I think was brilliant. So I love Danny's film. Thomas's film, my hearing's not great, and so I struggled to hear most of Thomas's narration when I was watching it in the cinema. But I remember when watching and judging it, how much I enjoyed your narration and the step you've made into narration, which, like we talked about before, was not there previously. And I really, I like the way you see the world visually and the comments you make. But in the end, I did actually vote for Nick's film because I was scared no one else was going to, and I just wanted to make sure that At least one person voted for it. The thing I like about Nick's film is his bravery to try and tell that story, but also visually it looks beautiful. I'm not sure how he got some of those shots, but I just think parts of that film are gorgeous. So it's a really interesting sort of mix of those, the storytelling, the emotional weight, and just some gorgeous visuals. I like the way you took us on a bit of an emotional roller coaster, sometimes very serious and other times frivolous and light and fun and funny. And I think that was really well done. I felt a bit sad for Edward because his film came on at the beginning after a break, and it's such a short film. And because the way the system worked, I think the theatre wasn't really fully sitting down and ready to concentrate on that film. And so that's one thing I was thinking, I think the shorts should come before the longer features, but how do you get everyone to shut up and sit down and concentrate on this 1 minute, 2 minute, 3 minute film, because you don't want to miss anything, because you want to see all of it. I enjoyed the big scoots. I thought that was put together really professionally, and you can tell that the person who made it was a real journalist, weaving stories. Greg's film, the Adventure Spec film, the writing, how that was, the story structure, I thought was really good. It wasn't just a simple, we did this, then we did this, then we did this. It had this sort of telling the story in reverse kind of attempt, which I appreciated.
I think you've mentioned every film by now, Simon. You're like a politician.
I voted for Nick. I did vote for Nick, but it was sort of almost a pity vote. Sorry, Nick.
On that point about some of the shots, one of them actually was inspired by Thomas. Thomas, in your second film, I think, when you're just doing you're filming a little solo trip. I think it's in the Pyrenees, and you challenge yourself to sort of stay within one section of trail.
Yeah,
which I know from listening to your podcast episode with Simon. You did these really far away shots, and I loved the effect of that. So in my Spain trip, I thought, I'm going to try that. Actually, some of those shots I think were the strongest for me, because they gave me the sort of palette to play with to sort of show this like tiny rider, but against this massive backdrop, this looming mountain shot.
Were they shot on your R50?
That's right, yeah, the Canon R50, which is interesting because you have to get it all set up and then ride off for like 5 minutes and pray it's still there.
One question for all of you is, will you be entering a film next year?
I certainly will be. Got a few plans. If I have something, I'll absolutely be submitting again, definitely.
Yeah, I've just wrapped up shooting actually of my next one. I went to Morocco, tagged up with Sam from Wilderness Wheels, which I know you guys used for your recent tour there as well. But this time I made it a bit different. I tried for the first time going in a group, which is a new thing for me. I went with Drew, and anyone who's watched West Side Santander will know Drew was in that film. But this time I went with Drew and his fiancée, who also rides. And Drew is a bit of a character, and he warned me beforehand, his fiancée is even worse. And I was like, great, that'll make a great film. I actually spoke to Thomas beforehand about sort of how do you capture other people, and he gave me a few tips, and all grand plans fell apart because trying to sort of rein in two Australians who were just bonkers, was tricky. And sometimes I put the camera up and I try and get some sort of deep chat moment or whatever, but you can't do that with people who aren't used to it. So in the end, I got some good footage. The film's going to be a very, very different film to the last one. I've got the sort of first 3 minutes done, but it's a long way off finishing. But yeah, I'll be keen to enter again for sure.
Danny, you've just got back from a trip as well.
Yeah, I literally got back on Saturday from Cambodia. Hopefully I can enter it, but I've been asked to make a film for Greg for Adventure Spec for this one. This is a new project that he started where he wants to get amateur filmmakers like me to work with Adventure Spec, showcasing their products, but at the same time just gives you the freedom to make your own film without the pressure of feeling like it's a paid advert. We were out there for nearly 3 weeks. We were on actual dirt bikes this time. For anyone who's seen the Uganda film, you'll know what I mean. Yeah, and there was some pretty epic terrain that we rode, but the main story is not really about the riding. It's more about the people that we met along the way, which I think is kind of carving the film's story like in my head right now. So I'm going to have a bit of a chat with Greg this week, and then I'm kind of itching to get editing, so that'll be my next project on the go.
That's something we didn't talk about before the festival, Greg was certainly using it as a way to find talented filmmakers.
It's great for me because I'm not really bothered about getting a following on YouTube. I just make films because I'm just naturally creative. I've got this like instinct to create, and I can't really control it. For him to offer me this opportunity, because I'm a big fan of Adventure Spec anyway. I've already got loads of their gear before he even contacted me, and also like everyone involved with Adventure Spec kind of become mates with them over the years. So it's great to be able to work with them now as well.
I was going to ask Danny, have you checked how many gigabytes of footage you've come back with?
Nah, not at all.
This is my favorite things to do. I get everything transferred off the SD cards just to sort of keep it all safe. And then I'm like, right, what actually do I have? And previously, when I made my first films, I did a lot of helmet cam footage, and you sort of leave the helmet cam on for like 10 minutes or something stupid. And now I do a lot less of that, but still I came back with 800 gigabytes of footage, largely because I had an idea to send Drew a camera. I was going to buy a new camera for this trip, the DJI Pocket 3. And I thought, you know what, rather than just buy it and then take it with me, I'll buy it and send it to Drew and tell Drew, like, just film what you want, you know, film like you coming over, film everything. And so I've got hours of footage of Drew filming close-ups of his fiance eating spaghetti and just all sorts of nonsense you wouldn't believe. And I've had to just go through that and like cut out so much stuff. Thanks, Drew.
Simon, we've certainly learned a lot in the last 14, 15 months or so, haven't we? And I guess one of the biggest lessons was we had to convert every single file into a digital cinema package. And it literally took 2 weeks solid. So I was getting up in the night and setting jobs off to convert files, to upload files, to download files. And it was almost a solid 2 weeks. So we had to go and buy 2 4 gigabit hard drives. Terabyte, yeah, to put everything on. That was a big lesson for us. But I also think we've learned a lot more about how we want to run the event on the day, or in fact 2 days, as we're going to do next year. Should we talk a little bit about that?
Yeah, well, the whole conversion drama was quite a big deal. Also because I'm in Germany, you're in the UK, and it also, as well as doing the conversion, it also was going to take time to transfer files from one country to the other on domestic internet connections. There were literally sort of red lines on the calendar about when we had to finish this process by. And then I remember also, I said, hey, what happened if that first hard drive fails? What's our redundancy plan here? And you went, oh, yeah, good point. I said, go out and buy another 4 terabyte drive this afternoon and make sure that we copy so that we at least have 2 physical copies of the whole festival. There just wasn't enough time. If that first hard drive had failed, there wasn't enough time, literally, to do all the conversions, transfer the files from one country to the other. It was we had a bit of a drama, but I think we realised pretty early on that this was going to take time, and therefore we allowed ourselves enough time to do it. Since then, what we've been thinking about for 2027 is we had a bit of a sort of an informal party on the night before the festival this year, and that was lovely at the Brewery Arts Centre in Kendal, which is the venue for the festival. And so what we're going to do for next year is we're going to slightly formalise that. We're not going to show any films on that first night, but we're basically going to have a pizza night at the venue. Clive and I will probably stand up and just maybe put a few slides up, but we won't show any films. So if people don't go or can't make it on the Friday night, they're not going to miss a lot. They're not going to miss the main festival. But we're sort of formalising that party a little bit more than what we did this year.
The tickets for that event will be slightly limited anyway. We're going to rearrange the theatre and push the screen back because there's an awful lot more room in the theatre than we actually used. So the screen's going to go right back, and we're actually going to put up an extra 100 seats in. There will now be a capacity of 360 in the actual cinema, but there's only space on the Friday night for 150 people. So if you do want to come along to what we are calling the Trailhead Social on the Friday evening, Friday the 26th of February, get your ticket as soon as you can. You can't get them now because they're not on sale yet, but there will be the next couple of weeks.
With reference to the additional seating that we're putting it in, it's not going to be as comfortable as the seating in the existing cinema. So the tickets for those seats will be lower price. And I guess I would encourage people to bring maybe a cushion with them. But another thing that we've decided to do is start the festival earlier. So we'll probably start at 11 o'clock in the morning on the Saturday, and we'll finish probably at 9 o'clock on Saturday night rather than 11. Plus, we'll also have longer breaks, so there isn't quite such a panic to eat your main meal or lunch or dinner, whatever. So it'll be a slightly more relaxed feeling, hopefully, to the festival. It is an automated projection system, so everything will be very rigid, which, of course, again, appeals to my German sense.
That was one thing we didn't realise that we were going to have to do. We had to build the whole package from start to finish. There wasn't a projectionist in the theatre for the whole day. Somebody pressed go or play, and that was it. We had to stick exactly to those times. The result of that is one thing we are really, really keen to do, is to stretch things out a bit more. So you've got more time to socialise, more time to go and look at the exhibitors that will be there. We are looking for additional partners and people to sponsor and come and show their wares. So if you are interested, give us a shout. We'd be delighted to have you. But yeah, more time for beers, more time for chat, more time to go and get food. I nearly missed the start of the last section because I was queuing up in the chippy. Nearly actually missed the end of my own film festival.
The after-event party basically kicked off at sort of 11:30 in a local bar, but it seemed to be about the only late-night venue in the whole of Kendal, and so...
It is the only late-night venue in Kendal.
And so every man and his dog was there, and it was perhaps not quite the appropriate vibe for a whole lot of 50-plus men, of which Clive and I are. So for the next festival, because we're going to finish at 9, we'll actually have after-event beers in the Brewery Arts Centre, so on site, because we'll have access to one of the bars there for probably a couple of hours through till about 11. Is that right, Clive?
Yeah, I think they're open till 11, so we'll have a couple of hours to catch up after the event as well, which will be really nice. And we've also made sure that the brewery keep the bar open all day as well. Well, there you go. That's the film festival, and the film festival is coming back next year, as I said at the beginning. If you want any more information, go to www.adventuremotofilmfest.com. That's adventuremotofilmfest.com. You can enter your film now and then keep your eye out there, so when tickets become available, you can get in straight away, whether it's just for the Saturday or for the Friday night Trailhead Social, as we're calling it. All right, see you next time. Just a final word from one of our newest and dearest sponsors. If you've ever dreamt of riding across the vast desert plains, carving through remote mountain passes, or cresting cathedral dunes, Wilderness Wheels in Morocco makes it real. Based in Ouarzazate, they run fully guided off-road motorcycle adventures across the Sahara and Atlas Mountains. Complete with incredible food, welcoming accommodation, and decades of regional knowledge that make every day feel an unforgettable joy. And here's the big one. In March 2027, you can come ride Morocco with Clive, Noel, and possibly the new TAMP podcast co-host. A proper week of sand, stories, and spectacular riding with the TAMP podcast crew. Book your spot at wildernesswheels.com and come find the Morocco you've always been dreaming about. Thanks for listening. We really do appreciate it. You can follow us on Facebook and Instagram, and if you really appreciate what we do, please consider supporting us on either Patreon or Buy Me a Coffee. Links are available on our website, tampodcast.com, where you can also go to our store, that's a shop in English, and buy some branded stuff. Please keep listening and, more importantly, spreading the word.